Well, hello and welcome to Monument Cycling's highlights of the 2024 Women's Rapha Lincoln GP. This is the third round of the Women's National Road Race Series and 136 riders lined up today, and as soon as the neutral flag was dropped, the race began in earnest. There were attacks thick and fast, but the first attack to really dent the bunch was from Frankie Hall of Das Hutchinson Brother UK. She led for much of the first lap and led for the first climb of the infamous Michaelgate. A small group formed, but they weren't allowed to get much distance on the peloton. Very shortly, they were all pulled back. And it was all back together, but the second group of the day saw Ruth Shear and Charlotte Hodgkinsburn, again both of Das Hutchinson, and they were joined by Katie Hill of the London Academy, and also by Molly Patch of the Phoenix Collective. The four of them then taking the second climb of Michaelgate in their stride, and they'd continue to work well together, getting a little bit of a gap on the chasing bunch behind. Now, the chase behind was led by Shibden Apex race team, Kat Ferguson, who was second in the previous round, leading that charge. However, the four would continue to work well out the front, and that continued to be our status quo for a little bit of time. However, this, as many breakaways so often are, was not destined to be, and very shortly after, the four of those riders were all pulled back into the bunch, and it was all back together for the third climb up Michaelgate. This time, it was going to be led and controlled by Lifeplus-Wahoo in the green and the grey, and they'd spent a lot of time dictating pace at the front of the race. They only fielded three riders today: Eleanor King, Madeline Leach and Kate Richardson, but all exceptionally well-known and very powerful riders. And the pace that they injected into the front of the race really helped to fracture the peloton over the flats, and for a time it looked like the group might split in half. Big names like Kat Ferguson, Das Hutchinson, Pronoctis all represented at the front. But saying this, shortly after, it was again all come back together. And this would prove to be about the only lull of the day, as very shortly after, it was Joe Tindley in the red of Pronoctis 200 Degrees Coffee who would storm off the front and take Charlotte Berry of the Phoenix Collective with her. The two would work well together and get an advantage of about 20 seconds on the chasing bunch, but as seems to be the pattern in today's race, it wasn't long until the two were pulled back, this time by Das Hutchinson chasing on the front. And once more, we were all back together, Lifeplus-Wahoo again setting the pace on the front. And this time, it was Kate Richardson's turn to put the power down, and as soon as she did, she'd eke out an advantage of a few bike lengths. The newly crowned National Team Pursuit and Individual Pursuit champion delivering a masterclass of a late race attack up towards the penultimate climb of Michaelgate. And coming onto the cobbles for the second to last time, there was no one behind who could match the speed of Richardson. With each lap of the race, it was always this climb that would spark action in the bunch, and as Richardson powered on, the peloton behind would be stretched out and whittled down further. Das Hutchinson would chase, but the gap would continue to go out for Richardson, whose blistering attack gained her an advantage over the top of Michaelgate of about 35 seconds. With one more lap of the race to go, a small chase group formed behind the Lifeplus-Wahoo rider, with the remains of the peloton hot on their heels. With about 3 times the distance of the individual pursuit that she won on the track in February still ahead of her, it would be a tall order for Richardson to stay away. Showcasing the grit and determination of the seasoned track rider she is, the 21-year-old's advantage over the bunch, however, would stay steady at about 30 seconds. The chase group behind was fractured, and with no huge team presence and riders chipping off the front, they failed to organise, and without a concerted chase effort, Richardson's advantage coming into the last climb of Michaelgate was still at a whopping 25 seconds. On to the final climb then, Richardson was still leading, but with Shibden Apex chasing behind, she couldn't afford to lift off the gas for a moment, as we've seen so many riders caught out on the final climb in the past. Churning the pedals over the cobbles for the final time then, and despite the best efforts of Kat Ferguson, who was chasing behind, it became apparent that Kate Richardson had proved to be the strongest rider on the day. A quick look back and a delighted Richardson punches the air as she realises she's about to add a round of the National Road Race Series to her palmares under the shadows of Lincoln Cathedral in the packed city centre. A stunning road victory then complements her national track titles in February, and it's celebrations all round for Kate Richardson and Lifeplus-Wahoo as she takes the win in Lincoln. Kat Ferguson for Shibden Apex race team would bring the chase home in second place, with her teammate Imogen Wolfe rounding out the podium for third. And Loughborough Lightning's best placed rider on the day would be Lucy Harris in 8th, and she moves into the series lead overall, 6 points ahead of Ferguson. Happy riding then, and we'll see you next time.
You can now watch the best of British bike racing and more on Monument Cycling TV. Get 24/7 access to live coverage with analysis, extended highlights and exclusive content, all available for the price of a coffee a month. We have a chance to help create a sustainable British pro cycling scene where fans can enjoy the coverage that pro cycling in the UK deserves. This is passionate cycling coverage built by real fans of pro cycling for fans of pro cycling, and we want you to be a part of it. So to watch all the action, head on over to tv.monumentcycling.com now.